Hey guys, welcome to the Sunday night edition of I'm Still Playing. And I hope you guys had a great weekend. I know I did have a pretty good weekend. Just got back from seeing Deadpool. And before I go on too far about what I want to talk about this weekend, which is the War Within Prepatch, I just want to bitch a little bit about movie theaters. Because every time I think, I'll go see a movie in the theaters, I go see a movie in the theaters and then it's ruined by loud, obnoxious, annoying people around me. But oh my gosh. I'm just re-convinced that what I need to do is to wait for those movies to come out, watch them on the big screen, turn on the subwoofer, and enjoy them at home without loud, obnoxious people annoying the movie for me. Okay, that's enough of a rant about movies. Let's talk about the War Within pre-patch. They patched the pre-patch. They did. You remember last week I went on a pretty great length in talking about all of the things, the good things about the pre-patch, but also about all of the bad things about the pre-patch and how it was run. And I, mentioned several things that I thought they could do and they should do. And I'll be goddamned if the very next day they didn't release a patch and did almost to a T all of the things that I was suggesting they do.
If they hadn't have done what I told them not to do, they'd still be alive.
So here's what they did. Some of the things that they worked on. So first of all, the weekly quests for the pre-patch were converted to a daily quest. But they're now account-wide, so you only have to you can do all three every day, but you can only do them once for your account, and then they're done. And it's kind of funny. One of my friends was like, "Well, I love that change, but I hate that I made it account-wide because it's still a net loss for me." I had to kind of laugh because I'm like, not everybody has 7 or more alts that are all level 70, for which that it's a net loss for them to not get the daily quest, but had to have it a net lockout. But there you go. For me, it was definitely a gain, and I love that change. They also changed the way that the event works. So what happens now? Well, it's still on an hour-and-a-half cycle, and I suspect as of Tuesday, they will change that to 60 minutes, and then again the next week they're going to drop it down to 30 minutes, as they talked about doing. But during the hour-and-a-half, the zone is active. There are these world quest type events like they had before that go on. You start off with a large bar at the top. I think it's lingering memories or residual memories. But the bar goes down by completing the world quests. And then once you've completed all the world quests, the boss spawns. And everybody flies over to the boss and does the boss. You defeat the boss. You get some loot. You get some memories. You turn in the quest, and then the cycle just immediately repeats. And you go back to the bar resets, and you can go back to doing the world quests and completing it. And then it has for an hour and a half, and then it moves to the next zone, and then moves to the next zone after that. So it's just a world of difference. Now it goes from being an event that didn't honor your time in any way, shape, or form, and now 100% does honor your time because you can log in at any time with any character. You can drop in, you can see how far they are, you can participate in the event until it ends, and then it cycles over, and you can either grab you a different character or you can continue with that character that you had. So it really is just a much, much better event in the way that it is now, and I'm super happy with how it's turned out. There are some other quality of life enhancements that came along with the pre-patch. I think the biggest one that they have is the new combat improvements in your UI, in your options. So what you can do is you can now have them place a little circle around your character. You can also have it use like an outline around your character, or you can have it put an icon over your head. And I kind of like these. I played around a little bit when I looked at them. The only thing that I really didn't much care for, I started with the circle. So I'm a person who really gets annoyed when there's too much UI sort of interfering with my suspension of disbelief, if you will. I actually enjoyed the immersion, so I try to reduce nameplates and reduce things as much as possible. And I don't like a lot of stuff cluttering up my interface and cluttering up my character. So I started with just a circle around me at the bottom, and that's okay. But the problem is that the circle stays on you when you get on your mount. And so you have this giant flat disc moving around with you in your mount wherever you go. And that's terrible. It looks terrible. So I replaced the circle with the outline. And I was afraid the outline was going to be too much, but it's actually not too bad, especially once you get used to it. It's a little bit much like when you're right here just looking at your character. Or again, when you get on your mount, the outline stays on your mount. And so when you move around and fly around, you see that outline. But man, it's actually really nice when you're fighting in the middle of a large fight and you're trying to find your character, and you've gotten lost into 35 bodies and particle effects and special effects going on. So I actually kind of like it, and I think I'm going to stay with the outline for my character going. Something that's coming that I haven't seen yet, but rumors that it's coming, is that they're going to change the way the bank works. So you'll go away from having to buy bank slots for your bank and then put bags in those slots to having just a tabbed bank display, much like they're doing the Warband right now, the Warband bank. So when you'll get the first tab you'll get, and it'll have, I don't know, however many tabs that the Warband bank has, I suspect, a full tab page. And then you'll buy additional tabs to expand your bank. And I think for most of us, like for my poor fighter, she's still using netherweave bags, 16 slot bags for her bank. So I think for most of us, that's going to be a vast improvement on the amount of inventory space. And we all know the real boss monster in any of these games, especially in World of Warcraft, is inventory management and bank management. So that's really the big thing. Like I said, I've been playing the pre-patch now for this week. I'll continue to play it next week. And mostly what I've been doing is gearing up all of my alts. Well, most of my alts. And the reason, as a part of that process, I'm trying to decide who to main. I have been maining a hunter, a Beastmaster Hunter, for the last 2 expansions. I love Beastmaster Hunter, but I'm ready to try something a little bit different, I think. And it may be, still a hunter, but a different spec, or it may be something else altogether. So right now, the contenders for main are 4 level 70s plus a potential 5th. I'll get to that in a bit. So right now we have Nightfeather, which is my Marksman Hunter. We have Shimmerblade, which is an Outlaw Rogue. We have Kayet, which is a Fury Warrior. And Alexandra, a Fire Mage. So 2 range DPS, 2 melee DPS. Yes, there are no tanks or healers in my group. I am DPS for life. So in order to figure out what I did, well, I did what any reasonable player would do. I built a spreadsheet, right? Because right now, there's actually a kind of a cool time in your character's lifetime in World of Warcraft, in that once you've got all of the level up gear, which is eye level 480, all of your characters are the same eye level, which makes it really a good time to do sort of an apples to apples comparison in terms of DPS for those characters. And that's what I did. So I spent most of the week just getting them all geared up, but I finally got all 4 characters to eye level 480, so they have the exact same level gear. And then I started running comparisons on the different bosses. And as you can see here, I've got Arthas, I've got Onyxia, and I've got Ragnaros. And then I've recorded damage done and DPS for each of my different heroes on each of those bosses. And I know if any of you are true number crunchers, you're going to look at my methodology and you're probably like face palming right now, right? Because like, why don't you just go to a training dummy and just record your DPS, or get a recorder? All of that's available, and you can get actual real numbers to compare against. So why didn't I do that? Well, I've done training dummies before, and yes, that is a perfectly in a vacuum a great way to compare DPS. But DPS is not the only consideration for me for which main I want to pick. It's one of the considerations, but it's not the only one. And so this is a great time because I'm getting familiar enough with all 4 of those characters' rotations to be able to play them pseudo-competently. So with a fair degree of competency in the rotation, and then playing them against a boss or against in the mobs, you learn a whole lot about how that class is going to play once we get to the expansion. So for instance, you have to deal with fear, you have to deal with CC, you have to deal with the ability to find your character in the miasma that is all of the stuff going on when you're battling against a boss. How mobile is the character, both in combat and out combat? So all of those things play into the consideration as to whether or not I'm going to enjoy playing the character and if I want to main that character once the expansion comes. We're going to start with the Rogue. So I loved my Rogue, and I've loved it in expansions past. But I don't feel that Rogue is not in a bad spot right now, but it hasn't gotten as much love this expansion as some of the other classes have. So it still feels very much kind of the same as it has in other classes. And I found I really struggle to get out good DPS with the Rogue. I found the rotation itself to be to be quite a bit repetitive, and that can be said to some extent for all of the rotations, but it felt a little clunky to me and wasn't really, I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. So I don't think Rogue is going to be it for me. My Rogue has been an alchemist since 2014. I always imagine her basically sitting at the bar, opening chests and getting drunk every day and occasionally picking people's pockets. And I suspect that's what my Rogue is going to go back to doing this expansion as well. Okay, so Fire Mage. Now, Alexandra, I created a couple expansions ago as well. I've used to play Mage a great deal. I still love Mage as a ranged DPS class. And Mage got a lot of love this expansion. You can't swing a dead cat on the internet without hearing about how good Arcane Mage has become. Which really surprises me because, way back in the day, man, back when the Jets sucked and things like that, Arcane Mage was always the lowest tier. No one played Arcane Mage. Almost everyone played either Frost, and some people played Fire. But yeah, so Arcane has gotten tons of love, and it's supposedly very fun. I'm not currently playing Arcane Mage. I'm playing a Fire Mage. And for the Fire Mage, so two things. One, the DPS was a little less than what I expected it to be, honestly. It was decent, and it was, for the most part, close to being on par with my Marksman Hunter. But I'm not happy with how the Fire Mage's rotation works out. Essentially, running out of Fire Blast and running out of the Phoenixes feels bad. And then I hate when I, suddenly am not able to tap those and immediately get my instant Pyro. And what I end up having to do is fill with Fireball or Scorch. And you really only want to fill with Scorch if you're down to less than 25% health on the mob. So yeah, it feels a little clunky and it's a little hard. It punishes you when you're off, essentially. It punishes your DPS fairly significantly. So not sure Fire Mage is going to be it for this rotation. Maybe, but I'm not sold on it. Marksmanship Hunter. Now, like I said, Hunter's been my main, and I feel pretty strongly I'm going to end up maining Hunter again this expansion, but maybe not. And here's why. Hunter has always been ranged DPS on easy mode, right? There's this great mobility. You've got a pet to keep aggro off of you when you're solo questing out there. Solid single target DPS. I did notice kind of after playing the other classes quite a bit, you really only have one offensive cooldown, and that cooldown, True Shot, reigns over all. So you're really trying to basically get, keep Cool Shot on cooldown and then really firing off your aim shots, rapid fire when Cool Shot is up, and then barrage in between cooldowns of aim shot. The spec is great. The rotation is fairly good. Out of combat mobility is still hampered by the awful cooldown of Aspect of the Cheetah. But Hunter still feels really pretty solid, and it might still be the class that I end up playing. What surprised me was how well the Fury Warrior did. I was really kind of impressed on all fronts from Fury Warrior. So first of all, her DPS, because of Whirlwind mostly, but just in general and in Rage, her DPS is on par with the Marksmanship Hunter, if not exceeding the Marksmanship Hunter in many cases when the gear is the same. And that impressed me quite a bit. Plus, the rotation is a very natural, fluid rotation, and it doesn't punish you like Rogue might or like Mage might, where if you miss something or you do something slightly out of order, it really doesn't punish you too much for that. And I like that a lot about the DPS. The animations are solid. It just feels good, right? Playing Fury DPS. And like I said, and you have great AoE mixed in with single target. So Whirlwind gives you instant AoE that you can use almost all the time with almost no cooldown. You also have Blade Storm that you can make use of which is on a bit of a longer cooldown. Now, I'm not a theory crafter. I'm not an expert. There are plenty of sites for you to go to get really solid, builds and advice on rotations and things like that. I'm just talking about my experience and how I felt playing these characters. And I was really impressed with how well Fury Warrior worked out and how good it felt. So that might end up being my main. Okay, I have droned on long enough about selecting mains. If you're picking a main, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about this breakdown. And if you are now playing the pre-patch, what do you think about the changes? Are you excited about them as I am? Next week, or I should say Wednesday, I'm not sure what we'll talk about yet. Probably more pre-patch at this point, or more WoW, because we're enjoying it, and that is the game I'm playing. But I can tell you, I've been seeing a lot of posts lately, and I might have mentioned this last time, but I've been seeing a lot of posts lately about people playing Baldur's Gate 3 on the PS5. Gotta tell you, it's got that Baldur's Gate itch going again. I have no time for that. So I will try to resist, but feeling the urge to boot up another character and give it a try. We'll see. In the meantime, you guys have a fantastic week. Thanks for coming by. Like, subscribe, and have a great night. I'll see you soon.